Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Boleros. I'm Sam. I'm here with Gab. Say hi, Gab. And
What's up?
Maui. Welcome back, Maui.
Hello,
So,
hello, hello.
today, we're going to talk about week 2. Week 2 na ba tayo?
Week
Week 2
two,
last
week
week,
two.
di ba? Tama ba? Yeah. So, we're
Yeah.
going to talk about week 2 of the UAAP men's basketball season, season 85. Actually, week 2 plus, no? Kasi we're recording this on a Saturday night. We just finished watching the F Lasal beating FEU by 17. It was a worse game than it looked actually. They were up by 31 points. We'll talk more about that later. And also NU winning a close one against Adamson. So right now, as we speak, NU is the
Yeah.
clear number 1 team in the standings, no? So what a surprise, you know? I'm not sure if
Who would
anyone
have
expected
known? Who
NU
would
to
have
be number
known?
1. Exactly, 'di ba? Okay, so for this segment of the podcast, we're bringing back an old favorite from last season. We're going to talk about the ballers and boleros of the week. Okay, so for those that are not familiar with ballers and boleros, it's basically our own version of winners and losers of the week. See, okay, so it's kapag winners sila, we call them ballers. Kapag losers sila, we call them boleros kasi nambobola lang sila. Okay, so why don't we start with Gab? Gab, let's talk. Ano gusto mo? Baller muna o bolero?
Bad news first. Let's start with the Boleros first.
Okay, bad news. Okay, bad
Oh,
news.
so
So let's
you,
talk about the boleros
Maui,
first. Start with Gab.
since bago ka, you can give a runner up tapos the champion for the Bolero of the week. Kasi sino man yung loser of the week ko.
Kung hindi ka
Is that a
maka-decide, Mau, pwede naman
player
ikaw
or
lang.
team ba yan?
Kahit
Player,
ano,
team,
player.
anything. Anything. So, just to give you
Well,
an example, last year, naging bolero namin, last season, naging bolero namin yung coverage ng UAAP. Bolero yon kasi it was so bad yung coverage ng UAAP. So, yun. So, either naman, anything, basta winner or loser mo. So, let's start muna with you, Gab. Who's your, bolero of the week?
I'll start with my runner up, Sam. So, ang runner up ko,
Sige.
baka isipin ng mga tao yung bitter ako eh. Pero Lasal ang runner up ko. Baka sabihin ng mga tao, tinalo lang ng Ateneo yun. Ay,
Oo
tinalo
nga.
lang kasi ng Ateneo eh.
Oo nga,
Hindi,
hindi mo ba yun makikredit? They beat Ateneo.
hindi, I actually thought they played an excellent game, Lasal against Ateneo. However, hindi nila ma-follow up eh. Kaya sila yung Bolero of the week ko. Kasi we predicted them as our champion, Sam. Tapos, matatalo sila sa UE? Are you kidding me? They were leading in the fourth quarter of that game. They should have been tied. They should have been part of that log jam for the number 1 seed. But instead, they're middling around in the middle. Diba? So they should have won that game. I think we both watched it. They were up in the fourth quarter until they gave up against UE when they played zone for a few possessions, as nakascore ng UE, and still it boggles my mind bakit sila mag-zone against a 3-point shooting team like UE. Pero yun, nag-zone sila, tapos nung the following plays, yung mga pick and roll, hindi man lang nila tinrap yung only scorer, well, hindi naman siya yung only scorer in that game, pero yung main scorer ng
both
UE na si
Paranadas
Kyle
naman
Paranada. Oh, hindi
were
man siya
very
yung only scorer.
good.
Pero si Kyle Paranada was making the plays no fourth quarter.
Yeah, fourth
So,
quarter, I think
diba?
14 points.
Oh. So,
But
if I were them, yung do what you do against, do what people did against Jerome Lastimosa, diba? I-trap nyo. Siya lang gagawa ng play eh. Instead, nag-drop coverage siya ng pick and roll. Tapos nakailang floater si Kyle Paranada no fourth quarter. I think I counted around 3 or 4 na nakapasok siya sa painted area. Tapos nag-floater lang siya. Tapos nakascore siya. So, ewan,
Yeah.
you know, ang dami na lang 3 quarters of excellence ang Lasal eh. Like yung against UP, they had 2 quarters pa
Yeah,
extra sa breakdown sila nung third
they
quarter.
should have won that game
Yeah.
also.
Yes, diba? They're 2 games they should have won. Technically, pare, if you ask me, they should have been unbeaten eh. Yung UP, 1 game dapat yun eh. Pinahabol lang. Well, we know the UP comeback was coming, but if they kept their composure, they should have put away UP. UE, 1 game din yun eh. They should be undefeated except now they're 3-2. So, para sa akin, Bolero of the week yun. Well,
To be
runner up.
fair to be fair to Lasal, against UE, wala si Nele and si Nonoy, no? So, two rotation guys na wala. I think Maui, you mentioned dun sa chat natin. Hindi ko napanood yung game na to, pero I think ikaw yung nagsabi na nagkataon parehong Paranada uminit in that game, no? But
Yeah,
I think, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, yung game na yun talagang dominant yung dalawang Paranada. Both Paranada stepped up per half. So one half yung the other Paranada and the other half yung fourth quarter specifically si Kyle Paranada. But I think I'd have to agree with Gab. Yeah. Siguro nga early season nasa runner up ko rin ng ang Lasal sa Bolero.
Bolero.
Especially since we expected a lot from I guess you guys expected also a lot from them, taking them as your championship picks. But that win versus Ateneo should have been a big momentum changer na tuloy-tuloy na. They should have
Yes,
finished
yes.
the first round second or even first because of that game. But lo and behold, the classic DLSU meltdown happened just the game after. So so Lasal has not been that consistent since Franz Maren days, and possibly yung just in 2 years ni Allen Ayo na with Ben Mbala or the 3 years with Ben Mbala. But aside from that, they've had yung classic meltdowns, and you always see them try to have that momentum game when you think that they're gonna be able to turn the corner. But most of the time, they falter after. It's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, exactly. I actually want to ask a question. Do you think it's a coaching thing? Do you think it's Derek Pumaren's fault? Manong
I think
Derek.
I think it's not Derek Pumaren's fault. Derek Pumaren naman has had a history of being able to squeeze the team niya to perform at the best it can possibly. Especially nung nasa CEU siya, they were beating teams left and right sa PBA D-League.
Good point.
Also nung UE siya, nakaka-upset din sila. But I think maybe just some other adjustments. One big adjustment I've seen with Lasal is giving minutes of Mark Nonoy to Espacio, kasi parang mas steady siya compared to Nonoy, which is very erratic. Hindi mo alam kung papakitang Mark Nonoy today yung highly aggressive na Nonoy na on both ends, pero picking his spots, when to pass, when to shoot those contested shots, or on another hand yung Mark Nonoy na tumitira from the logo, highly contested three-pointers, just driving and turning the ball over. So I think
Yeah.
it's really boils down to yung consistency ng team. Aside from Johnny Winston, who has been the epitome of consistency in first round.
Yep. Sam, anything to add?
Just wanna say, si Mark Nonoy was one of the ano tawag ko dun? One of the
Bus.
disappointing busts that I picked when we had that episode 2 weeks ago, Gab. To be fair kay Mark Nonoy, though nung mga games na naglalaro siya, medyo busty nga siya. Pero he's been injured, I think. So last few games hindi siya naglalaro. But tama ka, Mau. I think honestly, like, feel ko na play out of the rotation na siya nung mga other cards ng Lasal. So, we'll see. Okay. Let's go to the main winner. So Maui, tama, 'di ba? Sabi mo, for you, Lasal din is also a runner-up loser of the week so far. Sige, so Maui,
Yeah.
let's start with you. Sino ang top bolero of the week mo?
As far as teams concerned, I think unanimously ang magiging bolero natin would be FEU. I mean, who expected FEU to start the season 0-5? FEU has always been a very consistent program. I think they've made the Final Four 8 straight years or even more. You never see a Final Four without FEU during the 2000s. Super rarely ka makakita ng FEU na hindi nakakapasok ng Final Four. And I guess it's really losing Abarientos was a very big hit for
It's big.
FEU.
It's big.
It's a very big loss. Si LJ Gonzalez is having a very hard time kasi talagang grabe yung defensive coverage sa kanya. Kita mo yung game. It's actually good to see si Patrick Sleep breaking out this year, but unfortunately, si Cyrus Torres has not performed up to par. I think we expected him to take a big leap this year, especially since he's been getting a huge bump in usage. Dami siyang shots, but unfortunately, even those corner threes na very easy to make for him, those floaters, mid-range shots, he hasn't been making a lot of them. And unfortunately, despite FEU having a very, I think, decent naman yung defense ng FEU, their offense has been abysmal to start the year.
Ako rin. So same tayo, pareho Maui yung ating runner-up, same din yung ating winner for the Bolero. Well, I can't say them a winner, but you know, they're the Bolero of the week. FEU talaga. As in, tama-tama ko. Hirap na hirap sila on offense. Sobrang hirap sila on offense. They can't, when they're not hitting their threes, there's no one who can make a play for them. Alam na yung play ni Patrick Sleet to penetrate and all that. Nakababasa na siya. Pero si LJ Gonzalez nakababasa na siya. There's no one else FEU can make a play aside from LJ Gonzalez. Who make a play for other people. Cyrus Torres, sobrang disappointing talaga. As in, I thought na medyo mag-expand yung game niya to beyond just as being a spot-up shooter. Pero hindi niya kaya hindi pa niya kaya yung responsibility na to create for others, to I don't know, to penetrate. All he knows is just to shoot threes so far. So hopefully he can expand this game. I just want to add, you called it, Sam. Malaking loss din si Ojula. Sobrang laking loss si Ojula. In all due respect to Pat Chuente. Hindi siya si Ojula. Mas magaling si Ojula by a mile. In terms of just post moves, just being an offensive threat, Ojula had way better skills than Pat Chuente. Even on defense, mas magaling talaga si Ojula. So tama ka, Sam. Sobrang big loss sa FEU na hindi lang si Abarientos pero pati si Ojula.
Tsaka just to add, I don't think even with everything that said, starting the season 0-5, I never expected them to, considering they also performed exceptionally well nung Phil Oil. I think they were part of the Final Four teams nung Phil Oil. So I guess siguro nagiging mentally draining na to FEU also because they lost a lot of nail biters from start. I think the first 3 games were very close, especially against the good teams. But unfortunately, they haven't been able to deliver.
Okay. Yeah. I agree. I actually didn't have a runner-up, pero syempre yung Bolero of the week ko has to be FEU also. 2 things that I want to ask the two of you before we move on to our ballers of the week. First of all, FEU has 2 games left in round 1. That's against, I think, NU and UST. Do you think they're going to win any of those 2 games? And which one? If sa tingin nyo may mapapanalunan sila. I mean, obviously, the obvious answer would be UST. UST is at the bottom, NU is at the top. But, UST is always fighting. Like, we had a scare with UST. So, what do you think? Maui, ikaw muna. Do you think mananalo sila in this round against NU or UST?
I think they have to win against UST. And I think the game against NU is winnable naman in their case. Despite NU being probably the hottest team in the league right now, uh, I guess I'm still not ready to discredit or to abandon yung FEU legacy and the consistency of the FEU program. I think they will have a better second round. I don't know if they'll still have a chance to fight for the Final Four slot. But if they do challenge the Final Four slot, they have to win the next two games definitely.
Right. Kasi I checked. I think they made the Final Four last season with 7 losses. So 5 na sila. So they only have 2 losses remaining for them to ideally still have a fighting chance in the Final Four. No?
Ang
Ikaw, Gab, sa
usual
tingin mo
na
ba mananalo? Go, Maui.
sorry. Just to add lang dun sa seven losses last year. Ang usual magic number talaga ng UAAP is 8 wins. So
8
when you reach
wins.
that 8, medyo ano ka na,
Safe ka.
medyo safe ka na to get to the Final Four. 9 or 10
Okay.
gets you the top 2 seeds.
Right. Okay. Gab, what do you think? May mapapanalunan ba yung FEU sa round na to? Based on what you've seen so far.
Based on what I've seen, I don't think mananalo sila either of those games.
Wow.
Talaga, as in,
Take.
I
Hot take
watched
ba
the
yun?
Adamson game. I watched the Adamson game. That was supposed to be a winnable game. Hindi lang sila hirap
Tama.
on offense. Given na, hirap sila talaga on offense. As in, for a guard-centric team, kulang talaga sila ng playmaking guards. Kulang talaga. And against UST, it's just gonna be, it's essentially the same team makeup. Just to say that. The only difference kay UST, mas capable si Faye. You know si Faye, he's had a pretty good couple of games. And he's
Dominant
very capable
din siya,
inside.
Lakas niya eh.
Yeah. And si Nick Caballero is looking for Faye. He's learning that he can create and drop off to Faye. And yun yung na-notice ko nung last game ng UST. Sino ba last game? Ateneo, yeah. So, Nick Caballero is more willing to create for Faye and they're finding other playmakers. I think si Mantua is stepping up to do more playmaking. So, rough pare. It's been rough for FEU. And kung 0-7 sila, if we don't make the Final Four, I don't think Coach Olsen's gonna keep his job.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sadly.
Keep that point, ha? Kasi that was my second question. If FEU doesn't make it in the Final Four and they have their worst season ever, do you think they will keep Olsen for the next season? So, Gab, you already answered, di ba? So, feel mo hindi. Ikaw, Maui.
No.
Kasi Olsen, Racela has established himself in FEU. I think, if I remember correctly, 6th season na niya or something like that. So, if they have a really poor performance this season and they miss the Final Four, do you blame Olsen and do you fire him? Or do you give him or do you keep him and blame, the lack of depth in your team?
I think the big question will be if they'll be able to turn their season around. Not just make the Final Four, but just show some life for the following seasons. And I think that would be crucial to establishing kung Coach Olsen will stay on. I believe that the previous FEU teams that he coached outperformed. Unfortunately, this year they are massively underperforming. So there's a very, especially if they go 0-7 sa first round, baka nga that's the nail in the coffin. But hopefully they show up better second round. They're capable. They showed naman nung preseason games nila that they're a capable team. I don't know, they just have to find a way to get Cyrus Torres hot first and then find
he showed
other
signs
facilitators.
Against Adamson. I think he hit 4 threes. I don't know how many he hit a while ago.
Pero No, well, dulo na pero wala garbage time eh. But alam mo Gab, here's my problem with FEU. Last two games nila, the game kanina against Lasal and the game against Adamson, they were both blowouts. Parang mentally mukhang ano na din to eh,
It's
drained na
getting
tong
to them.
FEU team eh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yun sabi
exactly.
ko after the
Kasi
first 3 games ng dikit eh.
right. Yeah,
Mm.
tama ka, Mau. Kasi against UP lumaban sila eh, 'di ba? I mean,
Yeah, that was winnable
sobrang
game.
sobrang talented lang talaga ng UP. That's why they couldn't keep up. Pero these last two games, although Lasal is also talented, to Maui's point, Adamson should have been a close game or a winnable game. Both games last year, Adamson versus FU, in both rounds, they were close games. If you look at the lineups, match sila eh. Alam mo yung like they have a star guard and then a bunch of like role players or good supporting cast lang. It should have been a much closer game pero hindi, blowout eh. Tapos it just keeps getting worse. Adamson was medyo tambak pero sakto lang. Ito, Lasal, tambak na tambak. So, honestly, like, I wouldn't be surprised kung mag 0-7 sila, to be honest,
Hello?
in this round.
Didn't FEU like fire Bert Flores after making the finals? I'm trying to remember. I think they did.
Malaking ano rin yun, Gab, eh. Mataas yung pride talaga ng Montinolas because it's a very glorified program, yung basketball program nila. Kaya, as you
Yeah.
mentioned previously, they're a very consistent basketball program. Yun lang, unfortunately, they've massively underperformed. Just to add yung sa sinabi ni Sam kanina, it was surprising to me na blowout din yung Lasal game. Hello? Do you hear me? Yeah?
Yes.
I think
Go.
nagkaka-problem internet. They actually beat Lasal sa Phil Oil's Final Four and reached the finals where they fought NU. So it was very surprising to me na talagang super blowout yung game to the point that it reached high 20s to low 30s. But
31.
yeah, you mentioned 31. So I think it's getting to them. Talaga siguro mentally damaged na sila because imagine starting the season 0-5 where you expected to make the Final Four. So talagang
Ako lang, Sam.
we'll see.
I think kung mag-continue yung blowouts, I think
Definitely.
Coach Olsen has to say
Definitely will
goodbye.
be axed. Yeah.
Kung talagang blowout, sabihin sobrang checked out na nila, hindi
Right.
na sila nakikinig kay Coach Olsen, I think kailangan na ng bago. And
Right.
yung I asked about the Bert Flores thing because I know the FEU sports program or athletics department are not afraid to make bold moves with coaching.
Mm-hmm.
They fired Bert Flores after making the final. So if they continue to get blown out, especially if they get blown out by UST, I will not be surprised kung mid-season yung magpalit sila ng coach. Kasi medyo nakakaya ma-blow out sila, in 4 straight games. Kawawa.
Okay, so let's see what happens for the remainder of the first round. Pero di ko ma-imagine, no? Can you imagine week 2 plus pa lang tayo and we're already talking about like Coach Rosella potentially getting fired. Who would have called that prior to the start of this season? Okay, moving on. Let's talk more about the positive things naman. So let's talk about our ballers of the week. So we started kanina with Gab. Mau, can you share with us if you have one baller of the week or meron ka runner-up na baller of the week? Sino yon?
I think kung pipili ako ng baller of the week team, I would definitely go NU player, definitely Johnny Winston. I'm gonna start with NU. NU won the Phil Oil Championship, but underrated pa rin sila coming to the season. People didn't know what they were going to do, how they were going to perform. The first few games nila, you saw them struggling, but they were able to pull off close wins. But so far, they've exceeded expectations. They have a chance to end the first round as a number 1 a number 2 slot, and I think a huge part of the credit has to be with given to Coach Jeff Napa, especially since some of their players, two of their players had to transfer to UP. Two of their key players, potential starters, is transferring to UP, si Rylan Torres and si Janjan Felicilda. Who would have predicted NU to be playing this good? And you can see they're playing team basketball. Yung box score, if you glance at the box score, you never see 20-point scorers. Talagang balanced attack. Minutes are evenly distributed. And to me, yes, they are the baller of the start of the season. As far as the player ko naman, I think unquestionably the best player has been Sean Winston. I think just the consistency every game. He's shooting at a pretty high clip. I think he's shooting at a 50+% clip. Also a 40.3 point 3 point line. Most of his shots are coming from jump shots, mid-range jump shots also. And if you happen to glance at box scores of LaSalle, very consistent yan, laging high single digits or 20 points. Which is why I think he's leading the MVP race right now.
Yes, I think
Just
Shawnee Winston is definitely leading the MVP. He's putting up a lot of numbers, and he's doing it from the mid range. We were talking about this, Maui. A lot. If you're talking about efficient shots, is either at the rim or from 3 point range. And if you're gonna take mid range shots, you should at least hit a very high percentage of mid range shots, because for it to be efficient, quote unquote. And tayo sobrang mid-range master ni Shawnee Winston. Naiinis ako sa nung game against Ateneo kasi lahat na lang ng mid-range shots niya pumapasok. At, yung every time he got into the lane, just mag-stop siya for a mid-range shot, yung gagano'n lang ako parang, papasok to, pumasok na.
Tsaka sometimes yung mid-range shots na coming from fast breaks, bigla na lang siya stop and pop, di ba?
It was something Chauncey Billups used to always do with the Pistons. He would not take it to the ring. He would stop at the free throw line and take a mid-range shot. And it was sure mid-range shot. So kudos to Shawnee Winston, man. I gave him a lot of shit from last year. Just because he wouldn't pass the ball to Balti and he always shot a lot. But now I think he's the main guy on offense, so I have no more comps. So I'm not gonna I'm gonna give him his flowers. He's playing awesome basketball. He's playing awesome.
Yeah, and I think for me, kasi makikita mo din na mature player siya, no? Like, very cool and collected siya. Hindi siya erratic or hindi siya sobrang wild. Like, let's say, compared to Mark Nonoy, for example. I feel like mas controlled si Shawnee Winston. I know na, yun nga, sobrang inaano natin si Shawnee last season kasi medyo tira lang siya ng tira. Hindi siya efficient last season, but this season ibang klase, ibang level, no? So kudos to Shawnee. Just wanted to jump on yung point ni Maui about NU. Alam mo, hindi lang, you have to think about yung what happened to NU during the pandemic din. I realized na nag-Google ako recently, tas I realized na prior to last season, NU pala yung kulelat, no? Yung last time nung nag-champion yung Ateneo, NU yung kulelat. And then, they built the program in high school. Sobrang galing naman nila sa high school. And UP and LaSalle stole all their players. I mean, hindi lang sina Rylan Torres and Janjan Felicilda. UP got Tamayo. They got the entire starting five. Tapos, si LaSalle naman got... si Dave din. Tapos LaSalle naman got Kevin Kiambao. So, for NU to bounce back from that, na kulelat sila, na wala lahat ng mga star recruits nila from high school, and for them to be the number 1 team now, ibang level din yung ginagawa ngayon ni Coach Jeff, no? Kasi originally, si Goldwyn Monteverde din yung coach, diba? So,
dapat siya.
They lost so much. They lost so much. So, for them to achieve this, I think is really a credit to the coaching staff and a credit to the hard work of the team. Pati yung mga tao na natira doon, no? So I think credit goes to them. One last lang, like I don't care what Coach Jeff says. I think sobrang may galit talaga tong NU sa UP eh. Kasi I think kahit sa preseason tinalo nila UP, 'di ba? So I
Yeah,
think sila
tinalo
yung
nila to
tumalo,
reach the
first na
finals sa
tumalo sa
PIL.
UP. Exactly. So I don't care what they say, may galit sila sa UP. Okay, Gab, meron ka bang ibang winner other than Shawnee or let's say NU?
My winner is a player and a coach and a team. So yung
Wow.
runner-up ko for Baller of the Week is actually related to Maui's Baller of the Week, NU. Ako si Steve Nash Enriquez. Putang ina, love ko talaga to panoorin tong si Steve Nash Enriquez. It's not just his hair and his name. It's yung style ng play
How
niya.
dare you?
Sobrang,
Number 1
Ha?
dapat yung name, number 2 yung hair.
hindi, yung style of play niya, I have to give flowers to yung style of play ni Steve Nash Enriquez. Sobrang unorthodox. At I really think they reached another level against UP when they reintroduced Steve Nash Enriquez. I call it the JD Kagulangan effect. Kasi mas maayos sila mag-run ng plays, they move the ball around better, they run better. Yung nakita yung mga outlet pass na tinathrow ni Steve Nash Enriquez, sobrang sakto. So I do remember you messaging you guys si Maui rin saw the exact same play. Yung sobrang lead pass na palaw, just on the money na yung nakuha ni Kian Baclaan for a layup. Grabe, I love watching Steve Nash Enriquez. I think the big win against UP has to be credited a lot to Steve Nash because he really, I think it was a plus 21, scoring 8 points and having 5 assists. So just for him being on the floor as a stabilizer, Kian Baclaan is more of scoring point guard and just playing them together. Sobrang efficient, sobrang sarap. Mas maganda yung panoorin ng NU on offense. And Steve, and a while ago, I saw the highlights. He had a behind the back wrap around and a layup on the fast break. That's a one-handed floater. Bigyan na lang yung grabe, sobrang entertaining lang ni Steve Nash. Na I actually thought when Jan and Philip Felicilda left na they might struggle, but yung seeing them right now with Baclaan and Steve Nash, oh, what a great name. with Steve Nash Enriquez, I think they're pretty good. You pretty good sila yung at the point guard position. Galing na talaga ni Steve Nash. Ako sobrang entertained ako sa kanya.
Tsaka to add to Gab about Steve Nash, I think yung main contribution talaga niya yung energy niya. Yung energy talaga niya pagpasok sa game na iba yung laro ng NU. Which is why I think I read a stat recently, I think yesterday or today, NU is actually forcing the most turnovers sa teams. Even Ateneo, which is a usually disciplined team, had 20 turnovers versus NU. And I think it's a big credit to first the coaching staff, but second to the play ni Baclaan and ni Steve Nash Enriquez and the other perimeter guys. I think yun yung malaking reason talaga kung bakit yung showing that they're legit. They went undefeated nung Phil Oil, but people still questioned if they were legitimate. But they're showing through the first five or 6 games that they're a force to be reckoned with. You can't take them for granted. The team, even UP, the giant UP, the champion, had to bow down to NU.
Yeah, and
one thing lang, no, just to close the conversation kay Steve Nash. Sa akin lang ang comment ko, wag niya masyado galingan, baka nakawin siya ng UP. Yun lang naman. Sige.
Balik na lang si Felicilda. Siya na lang kukunin.
Baka nakawin pag masyadong magaling eh. Alam mo na. Gab, ano yan? Coach tsaka team.
Oh,
Go.
well, ako, pare, we have to give the laurels and the flowers to UE and Jack Santiago. Pare,
Respect,
pare.
pare. Respect.
Anyway, UE was winless last season with halos the exact same team. Even less nga, nawala si Clint Escamis eh. Tapos, Coach Jack Santiago was suspended for all but one game because he told his team to hurt Richie Rivero. But he came back and he showed na with a full off season, kaya niya put enough discipline, and yung style of play nila, I love the way they play. So modern basketball, we always talk about this, Sam and Maui. The UAAP has embraced modern basketball, and UE is just the latest to join it. They play 5 out except when Gani Stevens is there. They play 4 out, but they play on the perimeter, a lot of pick and rolls, a lot of threes. Sobrang entertaining lang panoorin, and it's very effective. Diba? They can score points in bunches, and they have a ton of shooters. Si Villegas, this guy is good. Si Payawal, he's a great shooter. Yung kapatid ni Kyle Paranado, magaling din mag-shoot.
Si Nico Granada.
Oo. Oh, sorry. Si
Kahit
Nico
ako kanina
Paranado.
nakalimutan ko si Nico. Sa Paranado Brothers.
Si Nico Paranado. Legit, pare. And Coach Jack Santiago has them has implemented a system that works, that plays to the strength of his players. You know, we all thought coming into the season, man, baka sa bottom na naman ng UE. They're in Final Four contention. Oh, saan ka ba? Diba? Redemption for both UE and Coach Jack Santiago. In fairness, si Coach Jack Santiago, diba? Sobrang yung put a bad light siya yung last season for what he said about yung to his team about Richie Rivero. Pero, 2-2.
Yeah, ako din, obviously, I had UE as one of my winners. Respect din kay Coach Jack Santiago. He's making this team overachieve. I think nag-comment siya. Hindi ko binasa yung article. So, please correct me if I'm wrong. Pero I read somewhere, parang may snippet na when he was asked about to give comments about the game against Lasal, sabi niya, most of what I do, I just implement the Pumarin system. So, medyo tira on Derek Pumarin, he got out Pumarin, no? So, yun lang naman.
Was he an
I think
assistant?
Yes,
To
I think.
Coach Derek?
Yes, kay Franz.
Franz muna.
Franz.
Okay.
Yeah, Franz.
Tsaka si Don Aliado is also part of the, I think, coaching staff. So, he knows the blueprint.
Former player
of
yung of the Pumarins, Coach Don Aliado. Yeah, so
But
give our
I
flowers to
agree.
UE talaga.
Aside from NU, UE has performed spectacularly this season, especially since they beat Asal. Anytime somebody beats Asal, we're happy. We were sad.
I was cheering. I've never
Sunday.
cheered so hard for UE in my life, Mau. So, nung Wednesday.
Me too. We were sad.
Sila, yes!
Salbahe kayo.
But anytime Lasal loses, especially since alam naman natin Lasal, pag nanalo sa Ateneo, tumataas na ang noo. So, back to the earth sila. But yes, thank you to UE for redeeming our very sad week. Hopefully they continue to outperform this season. Pero tama, Gab, nowhere to go but up sila. 0 wins.
Yeah.
2 wins na. Diba?
Solid. And they know their identity. They know their identity rin. They know na si Kyle Paranada yung main guy nila. And I think Kyle Paranada relishes that opportunity to be the main guy. Pero sobrang yabang niya. Sobrang grabe yung confidence niya on the floor. I love it. I love it. Sobra. And Luis Villegas, I think we gotta shout out si Villegas, pare. Maui sent this. He has MVP numbers.
Yeah,
Salgado
I was
Villegas,
gonna
so,
say I
sorry.
think Villegas should be one of the
Yeah.
ballers of the week. So dun sa mga hindi familiar, hindi ko mahanap yung thread, baka we can share here the screen, pero basically Mau shared like a post by si yun, 'di ba? Si Ryan Alba, I think,
Ryan
posted.
Alba. Ryan Alba.
Ryan
Merong
Alba.
stats
Yeah,
ng four bigs. So merong basta may four stats. Clearly yung letter D, yung stats ni letter D, siya yung may best stats. And then when revealed, the one that had the best stats was si Villegas. Hindi ko alam first name niya. Ano first name ni Villegas?
Luis.
Luis
Saka
Villegas.
siya,
So
same to Jason Castro. Dalawa rin pangalan niya. Salgado Villegas siya. Para kaya nakakalito.
okay. Okay, so anyway, dun sa apat na stats, Luis Villegas had the best stats, MVP level numbers. He
Both ends.
had better stats compared to Carl Tamayo, Kevin Kiambao, and Mike Phillips. Let that sink in. Si Luis Villegas has better stats than those three big men. Who would have thought, no? Okay. One thing lang sa UE, before we move on, no? Again, going back to season, so last season, winless sila, di ba? The season prior to that, yung research ko nga, na-shock ako, I thought UE yung kulelat nun. So apparently, NU nga, as I mentioned. Tapos, UE had 4 wins. So my question to you guys, do you think UE is going to tie or beat the 4 wins that they had in season 82? Gab,
Kaya.
ikaw muna.
Oh,
Maui,
kaya.
kaya
I
daw.
think beat.
I think kaya.
I think they're gonna beat it.
Beat, tie, or beat?
May line for them over, I think, six wins. Kaya lang mag-6.
Wow,
Kaya
6
lang
wins.
Legit.
Alvin Pasal pa
Okay.
siguro yun, no, Sam? Yung 4 win season. Probably Alvin Pasal.
Pasaol tsaka si Swerte. Naalala mo yung game winner ni Swerte?
Yeah. I think
May
yun
game
yung last
winner
year
si
ni
Swerte
pala.
against Lasal.
Tama.
Against Lasal.
One and done years.
So that was the last time they beat Lasal, I think.
Kasi
So
if
ikaw,
you
Maui,
look at-
what do you think?
Sige, go.
I think it's possible naman that, I mean, baka sa first round pa lang, who knows, baka yung next 3 games nila. But I think over-under for them is yung number na binigay mo, Sam, 4 wins. I think they probably win 4 or 5 games this year. I think 4 wins. 4 wins is doable, so over 5 wins. 5 wins probably. 5 to 6 wins like Gab ang UE this year.
Wow.
Sino ba yung remaining games nila? I think they have UST, di ba?
Ateneo ata, hindi pa.
Ateneo yung
Yung Ateneo yung last game nila. I think yun yung last game nila. And then I
UST
think they have
tomorrow.
UST.
UST tomorrow.
I think they can win against UST. Win against UST. Of course, I'm gonna say they're
Wag
gonna
naman
say
sa Ateneo. Go.
But in the second round, so if they can get to 3 wins, 3, di ba? Tama. If they win against UST,
if they win
that's their
against
third
UST.
win. So if they make it to the second round, that's I think they can beat FEU, UST, and sure
na yun.
I think sure na yun. They're much better than those teams. And I think they can pull off an upset either against Adamson or NU. And I don't think mauulit nila yung against Lasal or UP or Ateneo. Pero one of those two, yung pwede lang upset, NU or Adamson. Because I think they have they have the firepower and they have the identity to win those games. So 6, I think 6.
Basta magsabay yung dalawang paranada. Magsabay yung dalawang paranada. Delikado talaga.
Magsabay na rin silang umalat against Ateneo para naman manalo yung Ateneo, di ba? Sige, so yun. So Gab, you're done with your winners, no? I guess ballers. Ako, I have a bonus ballers. I agree naman sa mga picks nyo ni Maui. I think clearly yun yung ballers natin, no? NU, UE, and I think Shawnee, UE team, and then Shawnee Winston. Ako may bonus baller ako just from today's game. So, last season, I said na si Cedric Manzano had the best nickname which was Baby Boy. So he had a baller nickname, si Baby Boy. Kanina in the game against NU, may bago na siyang nickname. Kasi
Ha?
he kept getting...
Nico Ramos? Din nagbigay?
Sino ba kanina? Hindi ko si Willie Wilson and someone hindi ko alala kung sino yung kasama niya. But anyway, ang bago na daw niyang nickname is Magnet Manzano. So, I think winner na naman. So, a baller na naman so far si Cedric Manzano when it comes to nickname. Posible maging siya, first time ever, two-time defending most interesting nickname of the season, si
May ganun
Magnet
na palang award,
Manzano.
no?
Back to back na siya for me. So far yung best nickname for me, Magnet Manzano. So yun lang, bonus baller from me, ha.
Solid. Bakit
Okay,
magnet though?
go.
Bakit magnet?
Honestly, like, hindi ko alam. Pero I think kasi he kept getting mainit siya kanina eh. Parang he kept getting the ball.
Okay.
Although nag-foul out lang siya. Sayang. Ayun. So,
Okay.
anyway, I think
Nice.
that's it for us.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
May game pa bukas. So, by the time you're watching this, siguro tapos na yung Ateneo versus UP. I think whatever happens, no, NU and whoever wins in Ateneo versus UP would be the top team after this weekend. So, we'll talk more about that in next week's episode. Alam niyo naman who we're going to be cheering for.
Believe. Kaya natin yan.
Alright. Okay.
Basta wag
My name
Boleros.
is Sam. Thank
Thank
you. Thank you, Maui. Thank you, Gab, for joining us today. For those watching, don't forget to comment. Let us know your thoughts. Share with us kung ano yung mga ballers and boleros nyo of the week so far. And if you haven't yet, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.